What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Doctor Who review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 10th Doctor, David Tennant story, New Earth. It is Series 2, Episode 1, the second episode for David Tennant. Of course, we had the Christmas invasion last time. Now we're actually into Series 2 properly with New Earth. This is an episode that, of course, I've seen plenty of times. Pretty much everything through RTD's era I have seen. I'd say at least like 7 times, maybe even, I reckon even more than that for a lot of it, to be honest. Yeah, I've seen these stories a lot of times. New Earth is one that a lot of people like to bash on quite a lot and say it is quite weak. I mean, you'll see throughout this review, but on the most part, I do agree. I definitely think it is one of the weaker stories and possibly the weakest opener for... No, I think definitely the weakest opener for RTD's first era, for sure. Probably not when we consider his new era, but anyway, we're not talking about that. But yeah, it is one of the weaker stories, but it still has some good stuff in it. So yeah, let's get into this one with the cast. David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. Now, David Tennant is my favourite Doctor. I love him all the time, and on the most part, I do think he is very good here. I don't think he's amazing here, to be completely honest, mostly because of what they do with the Doctor and Rose, and really everybody in this story. I do think it was a bit of a strange thing after, the Christmas invasion, where of course it's the post-regeneration story, and the Doctor isn't really in it very much. He's in it for like the last 10-15 minutes or so, isn't really in it for the rest of the story because he is, getting better from his regeneration. This being kind of the first story of the season where we're properly getting into this Doctor, to have it where the Doctor isn't even really the Doctor for a lot of this episode, of course, switching around with Cassandra and all that sort of stuff. I think it was a weird choice to do that for this first episode when we are trying to get used to these, this new Doctor and the new dynamic between these characters. To have, Rose is not Rose for a lot of it, then it gets switched to the Doctor, so we don't actually see very much of actually the Doctor and Rose in this story, really at all. There's a bit at the start, and there's the bit at the end. The rest of this story, they're not really their own characters, So it is strange, but on the most part, I think David Tennant does a good performance. I like when he is Cassandra. It's very silly. It is a bit too silly, and that's another thing I'm not the biggest fan of with this episode, but on the most part, performance-wise at least, I think David Tennant does a great job. Billie Piper as Rose Tyler. Yeah, like I said, even more so with Rose. She's not really Rose in this story for much at all, even less than the Doctor. She is Cassandra. Billie Piper is basically playing Cassandra for the majority of the story, and I think she does a really good job with it, although I'm not the biggest fan of, Cassandra going into, people's bodies, and I think it is a bit silly. I think that Billie Piper does an amazing job at, the difference in her voice and the different mannerisms and everything of Cassandra. It really works well, and I think the performance is great. I think it's a bit silly that the Doctor doesn't really, I don't know, he doesn't seem to twig onto it that early. I mean, eventually he figures it out, but I think it maybe takes him a little bit too long, because there's definitely moments earlier on where Rose does not sound normal. The Doctor doesn't really seem to be twigging on that it's not her, but later on you seem to, he gives some, some looks and stuff that obviously, something here isn't right. But yeah, Billie Piper, great job. So let's get on to some points about this episode. First of all, the return of Cassandra. Yes, this is the return of the character Cassandra last saw in The End of the World, episode 2 of series 1. And I mean, we all thought she was dead there. The Doctor literally let her dry up and die, basically, and we thought she was dead, but it turns out she managed to survive. And yeah, I am a little bit confused as to how she survived, because of course in End of the World she looks just like she does now. She's just a thing of skin, a flat piece of skin with a brain that can talk, because I guess the brain's still alive and they've taken skin from Cassandra, like her original human body, and plastered it up on this thing. But then that skin gets completely destroyed. Now, it makes sense, I guess, that the brain has survived. Sure, fair enough. I can get on board with that. But then in this episode, she says that this lot of skin, because after Rose goes, you were destroyed. Your skin was, broken. She said, well, this piece of skin The original piece of skin was from the front of my body. This piece of the skin is from the back of my body. And I thought about that and I thought, wait a minute. Does she just have, well, firstly, does she just have her human body just, I don't know, in a freezer somewhere that she can just take skin from when she needs it? Or has she skinned her body? Like when she did this procedure originally, did she just skin her body and she's just kind of got the skin kept as reserves on the side for when, if anything does happen to her skin, she can just replace it? Didn't really make sense because it's been such a long time since Cassandra has been a human. So where is she getting this skin from? We also see the return of the Face of Bo, which is the second in a trilogy, kind of, for the Face of Bo. Once again, we saw him in The End of the World. He didn't really do much at all in that. He was just there. This story, he has a bit more of a presence, talking to the Doctor. Doesn't really have a presence on the story of this specific story at all. That is more when he returns in series 3. But yeah, we see a bit more of him here. He talks with the Doctor. He talks about his secret, but he's not going to reveal that to the Doctor just yet because he's not quite dying yet. In this story, it looks like he's dying, but then it turns out he isn't. And the revelation at the end that he will see the Doctor one more time, that will be in series 3 where he does his big reveal. But yeah, awesome to see the Face of Bo again doing a little bit more in this story. Cassandra puts herself in Rose's body. So this is where the body swapping takes place. Cassandra kind of stops Rose from, she like stops her in place with this, I don't know, this thing, this kind of beam, not teleport, beam sort of thing that like handcuffs her in place sort of. And she swaps herself into Rose's body using some sort of machine that she apparently has. And yeah, for the rest of the episode, the skin of Cassandra is dead. I think the brain is dead as well, actually. That kills the brain, which is... I like that as a concept because at least then we're showing that she now cannot go back into her original body. So I like that. And yeah, she is now in Rose's body. Patients with every disease to do experiments on for cures. Now, originally, when I was younger, I thought this was an interesting concept. These patients, these people turn out to be kind of just like a clone race sort of thing. They're not bred, perhaps, they're grown. Yeah, they've basically been given every disease in the known universe so that, basically like lab rats, so that the cat nuns can do tests on them and find cures for all these diseases. Now, as a concept, I like that, but there are issues with it. First big issue is that, and it is the main one of this story, I know these aren't humans, but there are diseases and illnesses out there that stop you from moving. We literally saw it, like, in the hospital where the Doctor's going around looking at people in the hospital where the Face of Bo is. He sees that guy who's completely stiff, the red guy, cannot move. So that's a disease. Why, if these clone people have got every disease, should they not have that disease? And if that's the case, they shouldn't be able to move, they shouldn't be able to walk or talk or anything, but somehow they are able to, and that doesn't make any sense. If they've got every single disease in the world, maybe they're not dead from all these diseases because of, whatever they're pumping into them to at least keep them alive to do these tests on, fair enough, but they shouldn't be able to walk and talk and do all this stuff if they have every single disease in the world. I think it's just a little bit too far-fetched in that regard. Cassandra goes into the Doctor's body. So yes, the Doctor figures out what's going on, figures out that Cassandra is in Rose's body and demands her to leave Rose's body. So she then goes into the Doctor's body and we have the Doctor as Cassandra. And I think that's funny when they're climbing up the ladder and Rose is like, use the sonic screwdriver, and she like pulls it out of the Doctor's pocket and she's like, what, this thing? And just the way that David Tennant talks and does the voice, I think is really good. And yeah, although I don't really like the body swapping thing because, it kind of doesn't get us into these characters quickly enough when it's, only their second story together, their first full story really together, I do still like those moments. The resolution of curing everyone of every disease doesn't make sense. So yeah, I will be honest, I did always quite like the scene where the Doctor gets all the cures, puts them into the top of the elevator, because earlier in the episode we we are shown that in these elevators, they kind of do like a sterilization thing where you go in the elevator, it completely sterilizes you, and so you're not bringing anything into the wards or anything throughout the hospital. And at the end of the episode, the doctor puts all the cures into this kind of tub at the top of the elevator that sprays all the disinfectant out, puts all the cures in there, so then that can cure all the people. Okay, I like the scene. It's a very nice, happy scene of everybody surviving this, apart from a couple of the cat people. But everybody is surviving this. It's all happy in the end. But it doesn't make sense. And this is what my partner pointed out that I kind of had thought of, but never really. And that is the fact that you can't cure somebody by just touching them with a cure, I mean, I like the look of it, and the way it's presented is cool, but it just doesn't make sense. If you're going to cure really anything, you need to either like ingest it through like, a tablet or medicine, or, have it like put into your blood or into your, you need to have that put into your body, not just touch somebody with the cure. So that doesn't make sense. I like the sentiment of, they've never been touched, so they just want to be touched, and that helps them. But realistically, yes, I know this is Doctor Who, but this is a medical thing, and it just doesn't make sense. Cassandra going into Chip and accepting death. So we haven't talked about Chip. Chip is Cassandra's kind of servant. He's just a servant clone race sort of thing, who doesn't have a very long life. And when the Doctor finally, Cassandra's swapping between him and Rose, he says, "You've got to leave." And she's like, "I can't leave. I've got nowhere to go. I've got to go into a body." By the way, I love it when she goes into one of the kind of zombie people's bodies. I think that is a really quite a funny scene. Yeah, in the end, she ends up going into Chip's body because Chip says, "I'll serve my mistress. You can live inside my body." But it turns out he's dying. And yeah, I do quite like that. However, just before that scene, she's like, "I really don't want to die." I mean, the whole thing with Cassandra is that she's the last human. She does not want to die. She wants to last as long as she possibly can. And she steps up to that until she, even going into Chip's body, she accepts that. Once she realizes that Chip is dying, he's not got long left, she then just accepts death. And I think it's a bit out of nowhere. She literally goes from, "No, I'm not dying, I must survive forever," to, "Oh well, Chip's body's dying. I guess it's time to die as well." Seems a little bit out of nowhere for me. So that is New Earth. A rating out of 10. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I think it's an okay episode. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say it is. Yes, there's things that don't make sense. Mainly the whole curing thing just doesn't make sense. I don't really like the Cassandra swapping into people thing, but it does give us some comedy and some silly moments, and I think both the actors do a great job of portraying that. Although, yeah, I think if this was an episode later in the season, it would work a bit better. Being the first episode of the season with a new Doctor, I don't think it's really the right place for it. This could have worked, yeah, I think about midway through the season, I think this would have worked a bit better. But it's still relatively enjoyable, though. I quite like the cat people. I actually only noticed in this episode, and my partner pointed it out because she's been watching Bridgerton, the woman who plays Lady Danbury in Bridgerton, who is also the woman who plays Martha's mum, is in this episode as one of the cat people. I don't know how I'd never noticed that before, but yeah, I was, as soon as she said it, I was like, it literally is. It's literally Martha's mum. So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, this episode's okay. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say it is, but it's definitely one of the weaker ones in the season, although there are definitely worse ones that we will get to. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.